Okay. Welcome back to Heart to Hearts. And today I really want to welcome Rachel Vaughan, who is an amazing woman coming to us from Australia, South Australia. And Rachel has been an incredible person in my life. I did Rachel's first course when she ran her intuitive development course for the first time. And I'd been following you a little bit at that stage for a couple of years. Even my daughter had shown me some stuff on TikTok.
Oh,
And then when you put out that you were going to do the course, I would think I might have been the first one to respond. I was so excited. So yeah, so I mean, Rachel, you have so many things that you have done in this world that are amazing and incredible, and I'm not even going to try and list them. But thank you very much for coming on and sharing with me today. And if you would you introduce yourself, please?
thank you, sweetheart. Beautiful introduction. So yeah, that I did teach a first course with a group of friends, and then I was too scared to do it again for months. It took me about 7 or 8 months, and then you were the first public group that I taught, and that was a huge learning curve for me, and it was such a beautiful experience because I got the best people to teach that first course with, in a public way. So for those who don't know me, I've been speaking out, well, for 18 years against, corruption in my state of South Australia. But for the last 5 years, I've been doing interviews. And then in the last year and a bit, year and a half, I've actually come out publicly about the fact that I've been working for the last 21 years as a professional psychic. And I had training as a child, military style MK Ultra mind control training in the psychic arts, but obviously I don't use it in a negative or don't use it for negative forces anymore. I use it to help. Um, but yeah, I was opened up in a very unethical way. But the things that I do now is I try very hard to help people to open up their own abilities, to use them ethically for humanity, for the earth. One of my main projects at the moment is the Lay Love Down project. And you've been a wonderful, wonderful component of that, an absolutely beautiful proponent of it as well. So what we're trying to do with Lay Love Down is encourage people to find ley lines in nature and take out musical instruments or tuning forks or some sort of harmonious sound or vocalize, ululate, light language, and help to heal and balance the energies and frequencies in the ley lines. Because I know personally, because of the satanic rituals I was involved in as a child, undesirably, I didn't want to be part of it, that there are negative forces on this planet that deliberately go out into those spaces and fill it with torture and murder and horrific sounds. So the idea is to go in there and create balance through these beautiful harmonious sounds. And I was just overjoyed to see, you've done that a couple of times now. You've shared yourself singing in a public way and allowed us to share it. And you've done such a beautiful job. And you don't have to be an amazing singer like Sarah to go out and do that. It's about the intent behind it. So as long as you're not screeching like a like a cat, um, and who knows, maybe there's a benefit in that. But as long as that there's joy in the production of the sound and the intent is to create balance and to bring in these beautiful frequencies, it does make a difference. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, there's so much more we're going to talk about with that. One thing I have done, Rachel, is I just wrote this down this morning. It's a little bit of an intention,
I
and
love
I've nicked a few bits and pieces from the intention from Lay Love Down, but
Perfect.
I'm going to read it for us now. So we affirm our connection with Mother Earth and into Source. We open ourselves and we invoke the white light of love's protection to fill all of our physical places, allowing only that which serves our highest good and the highest good of all beings. We ask also to surround ourselves in the frequencies of all the colors of the rainbow to cloak us and repel any humbug, so we may do what is right, as is our right, in the dark and in the light. So it is, so it is, so it is. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Nice work.
So that was that came through this morning after I was really getting this beautiful calling to make sure that all the intentions are right each day as we kind of move through these times that are feeling very heavy. And one of the things that came through is the rainbow frequencies, and that rainbows not only serve as protection and cloaking for us, but they're like a little visual for us to keep us hopeful and working, because it's like a promise that something amazing is coming. And I've always felt that about rainbows. I think so many people do. But yeah, how about you?
Well, it's interesting because on a soul level, my understanding, because I see soul colors, it's somewhat different to those who see the chakras influencing the aura, and Kirlian photography doesn't pick up exactly what I see, but the soul frequencies that I see relate to the rainbow. And the rainbow is like the reason we come here on a soul level to have a human experience is that we learn our lessons much more quickly, and we can ascend on a frequency level, on a soul level, much more quickly in the third dimension. So the rainbow to me is like a sign of, I came here for a purpose. It's a remembering of the purpose of being here, to ascend through those colors. So
Yeah,
that's what it means to me. So yeah, they're very similar.
so glad I asked.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
It makes perfect sense, because I know that when you read for me, and knowing so many other people you've read for, and how you'll often pick up kind of a main color and then a bit of a tinge, and it's like that moving from one to another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we ascend through those soul frequencies, and with each soul frequency ascension, we do open up different aspects of our sensory abilities. And it's not 5 senses. There are, I've heard 18 senses, and I've heard 23 senses. There are so many senses that, are not the main ones that we keep having drummed into us, that they're the only ones that we have. And when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, there are so many different areas of the electromagnetic spectrum that we cannot see with our eyeballs. And aspects like infrared and ultraviolet that we can, if it's through the peripheral vision, or if you have if you have your lens removed, you can see ultraviolet everywhere. And that Claude Monet is a very good example of that, the post-impressionist painter. If you look at the wide gamut of electromagnetic spectrum, you recognize that of course, there's aspects that we can't always sense, but some people sense those areas better than others.
Yeah, and I remember that you had found the research that actually confirmed in science what you were saying about our ability to see, and what abilities come with certain colored eyes. So that was that central heterochromia.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the course that I teach, and I've taught, I think I'm coming up to the 9th course that I'll be teaching in November. Through that experience, and having spoken publicly about central heterochromia and heterochromia in general, which is a particular iris color for those who may not know about it, and that research came to me through my cousin Doug McIntyre as well. He needs full credit for that. I'm just the one who's talked about it a lot because it fascinates me. Central heterochromia is where there's a different color around the pupil than the rest of the iris. And in the Hindu religion, people with that eye color have the ability to commune with God, see otherworldly entities, to pick up on, all sorts of interesting things like fairies, and see the future and all of that sort of thing. It's not to say that those who don't have that eye color can't do that. It's just more common amongst those individuals who do. And there's also full heterochromia, where a person will have one eye will be green and one eye will be brown, or any combination that are different. And you see this in white cats. If you see a white cat with two similar colored eyes, they're usually deaf. It's a really interesting phenomenon. So most white cats will have full heterochromia, which is just fascinating. There's also a new thing that I haven't spoken about very much publicly, and it was shared in my Telegram group, and I can't even remember who to credit for sharing it, but it's absolutely fascinating. Different people see different ranges of color. So it's not just people who are colorblind that see differently. There are people who are dichromats, trichromats, or tetrachromats. And those that see a wide range, the tetrachromats see more colors than others. It's about 25% of the population. They can see what a bee can see. So we have very complex vision. And what you were describing before is also those with central heterochromia seem to have a greater ability to pick up on ley lines and see them because they are visible. That has been proven. There's a natural law of medicine, can't remember the actual article title, but it's on on cryptochromes. So we have heavily expressed in the human retina cryptochromes, which are light receptor magnetoreceptors. So they pick up magnetic frequencies. And that's heavily expressed in the retina, same as what monarch butterflies have. Interesting that they use the monarch butterflies as part of that, because that's part of the MK Ultra mind control symbolism. And birds, so insects and birds have these cryptochromes also, particularly the CRY2 cryptochrome. National Library of Medicine's come to me finally. So we can see ley lines just like animals, birds and insects. I believe probably all animals have the ability to pick them up, but for some reason they haven't been studied in the same way. We can do this. We can see them, and we've been able to prove that, especially particularly through the courses that I've been doing. But I mean, I've shared this theory widely now. It's been in many. I've shared public presentations, and people can see them. They can pick them up. It's amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. I was thinking about this recently about, well, actually probably about the same time that the veil lifted. So in the last few weeks, just feeling that one of the aspects that I feel is imminent, if not already just happening, and people are taking a while to adjust, is that I feel we are able to see interdimensionally. So we're in those dimensions are just blocked off to us previously because of the veil, and the programming and all those bits and pieces that went along. But yeah, it does feel to me like suddenly there's a lot of people who are coming in to my clinic who are, I mean, I can see more myself. I can definitely feel that there's a shift and there's more there. But these people who haven't had any necessarily spiritual intention when they've come, and they are seeing things really quickly.
Which is potentially very scary, particularly when you look at, so I mean, obviously this shift was always going to happen. We were always going to come into this time, and I call it a golden age coming. It doesn't mean that I aspire to anything to do with Aleister Crowley or Alice Bailey. They obviously knew this was coming too, and they tried to co-opt it and turn it into something dark and scary and run away from that. It's happening. We're coming into this really beautiful frequency time. We're coming into the fifth dimension, which again, I've said in many interviews, I thought that was a fairy tale. When I heard that the ley lines all are harmonizing permanently, used to only happen 4 times of the year, equinoxes and solstices. It's happening permanently from December of this year. That is that shift into the fifth dimension. And as you said, the veil lifted. I got the download that the veil was completely gone on the 27th of September, around the same time that Hurricane Helene was wreaking havoc in North Carolina, which I think was always going to be a natural shift, but then it got hijacked into something far worse, obviously by Harp and DARPA. What we're coming into, and this is why when you're psychic and you speak about these things publicly, you do get slings and arrows, and obviously, those that either don't want this stuff to come out or who are so dumbed down, they don't want this sort of stuff being spoken about, because to them it is crazy. However, it is really important to speak about this right now, and I bless you, beautiful darling, because you're doing the same thing. We take the slings and arrows because there are going to be some people out there who, now that the veil has gone and all those dimensions are available to us and all those otherworldly entities are visible to people, because of psychology saying that that's schizophrenia or psychosis or delusion, they're going to freak out. And they need help to know this is coming to a time where we're in that time now. It's happened, where you're going to see that sort of thing. And so we need to know, how do we protect ourselves from those aspects that are not benevolent? How do we tap into those that are, to help us and protect us from the non-benevolent? And I do believe that as we come further into the fifth dimensional frequency, there will be less of the dark able to wreak havoc. They've been wreaking havoc for a very long time on this planet. Their dimensional state allows them to do that. Fifth dimensional does not. So this is a lifting of frequency. And again, dark entities have a signature frequency that only allows them into certain spaces. It's just like when we pass over, if we have done terrible things in our lifetime, the only space that our soul frequency would act as a key to the lock for, to a doorway opening into another dimension, is a dark dimension. If we're very loving and kind and benevolent, our soul frequency will open up a doorway when we pass that is a loving, beautiful frequency. And this is why it's so important to follow the right path when we have these human existences. People need to understand that we are coming to a time where less of that darkness is going to be around. So it's not going to be that scary. It's actually going to be pretty amazing. But for those who have been totally indoctrinated into believing that it's delusion and schizophrenia and those sorts of things, I worry for them, which is hence, again, why I'm speaking out. I know that's part of the reason why you do it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the answer to me is you get outside.
Yeah.
You get outside as much as you can for as long as you can, you know, as often as you can, because while we're talking about being able to see more, nature is showing up and it's speaking with us. The birds, you know, the birds that, and I mean, I've always been really into birds, but I've got fantails that are literally nesting like a meter from my back door,
Oh,
you know, and I've got something on my Galactic Midwife Telegram thing from today. I've been these paradise ducks that I keep finding in the last 3 days. These pairs of paradise ducks. Now, I ended up trying to walk where one was today, but it was through long grass. It was taking a while, and this guy came down where I was at Margate Mountain, and he called out and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a wildlife documentary filmmaker." And
of
he said, "And
course.
I'm really into birds." And I was like, "Me too." And, you know, so he said, "Well, then, you know, they're nesting and that's why they're around." But, and I'm like, yeah, all of that's true. Like, that's not to take away from the magic of it, that I've never seen them fly around where I am so much as I have
Wow.
in the last 3 days. So if we have people who are feeling overwhelmed, get outside, because what you know is real is what you can touch and feel. And when you're out in nature, that's real. Everything else can be an illusion. But, you know, there's too many cooperating energies in nature for you to be fooled. So get out, ground yourself.
And it's so uplifting.
So,
It's so uplifting. There's the negative ions that are released by the mycelium and from water, which is positively affecting for the aura. So that heals the aura, especially for people who are going through depression, you know, distress, grief, any of those emotions. If they're overly angry, get out into nature, because that will calm you down. It'll cleanse, it'll protect, and it takes you back to that balance of, this is the real world. You know, a lot of this stuff, a lot of, you know, I worry about the generation that's just growing up and coming into the teens and 20s now, who have just been bombarded with technology.
yeah.
Because a lot of them live in that technology. They don't live in the real world. And it's not healthy. Not least of all, they're bathed in EMFs all the time, but it's also, or negative EMFs, but it's not living in reality. And it's really quite cleverly done. They do this because they want to get them into the gambling sector at some point, you know, because a lot of that is dopamine. You know, you get this constant dopamine effect. And, you know, I'm on many platforms, so I know I'm also part of that. But I'm using it as a tool. It's not just for entertainment. Yeah, so getting out in nature is extremely important. And nature is speaking to us in ways that I've never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. And, you know, I'm really lucky because my husband finally convinced me that I should go and get myself a puppy.
Mm.
And the only reason I hadn't before was because he's got allergies, but he's been like, "No, you need to go and, you know, do it now." So I've got this beautiful little puppy who means that I have to get outside a lot. And I'm literally spending about 3 to 4 hours a day now outside. And it's making such a difference. But like you said, around that little trap of screens and the, you know, that technological kind of infiltration, you know, the vitamin D deficiency, our immune system, our vital force relies on vitamin D. These kids are not getting enough vitamin D, so they're already weakened, you know, and it's so important. And I'm seeing that with, you know, health issues within my family. But, you know, when you, I mean, all the struggle and worry that people have had around the vaccines and what that's doing to people, you know, immediately the first thing you need if you're going to fight off anything is vitamin D.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the way that you brought in your puppy, who's absolutely adorable. I've got a ferret at the moment that also requires me to be outside quite a bit of the day. Yeah, so our animal friends come in as healers and as protectors and as spirit guides in small form, to encourage us to do the things that we need to do for our own health. But yes, I totally agree. Vitamin D is essential. Iodine is essential. A lot of the countries in the Western world don't have enough iodine in the soil because of the ridiculous monocultures that we have. These huge fields that are just one plant. That's just so not normal and not healthy. So I thoroughly recommend people get your supplements as natural as possible, but get that supplementation happening as well, because we don't get the full gamut of nutrition that we need, particularly sunlight. You've got to get out in the sun. You can't get that in a pill.
No.
You can't take vitamin D pills and expect to get the same reaction and same effect. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No, I'm totally there with you on that. Yeah, and I mean that's why Lay Love Down is the most amazing resource for people to get involved in. And it just happens for me to be the thing that just, you talked about doing that, and I was like, I'm already out there, man. That's exactly my jam. I want to be with others doing it. And literally you gave us permission to make it a thing. And so, going out in winter, I was doing it at night with big groups, and we did it on the winter solstice. Um, I'd already done that trip to Castle Hill on the equinox in March. So it just, it was like just a continuation and then a building of more. And I have found that so many people are receptive to the idea of just going out in groups and singing and doing something because it's the right thing to do and it feels good.
Yes.
And not because they're all seeing ley lines even, but they just want to connect in that way. So, what an amazing thing. And now, of course, the weather's brighter and it's lovely. So we're kind of shifting things around to get out in the day more. But you couldn't ask for a better vehicle to get people out and help people, like really help people.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. The reason how that came about, I taught the very first course with a group. Max Lowen is a very close friend of mine, and she has a group of a beautiful team that works with her. And I wanted to test the course out, and they was obliging enough to do that, and they were really sweet. And one of the members asked me at one point, why was I sharing the information on the ley lines? What was it about? What did I hope was going to come from that? And if she hadn't asked me that question, Lay Love Down would never have happened. I would never have spoken about this with Ben Hawkes in our Wake Up interview. We just did another one yesterday as well. He wouldn't have then run with it, which is just spectacular. I mean, he's a very, very good organizer and manager, amazing individual. So it just, the course has opened things up in a massive way for me, because I kept it hidden. I didn't want to speak about my psychic ability for a very long time, out of concern that it would discredit, because people discredit people for talking about these things. The voice that I was trying to give to the children that I saw suffer when I was a child. The timing, I had to give up on worrying about that. And it was only when I gave up on worrying about how people would judge me and that I might be discredited that the government's finally given me a compensation payment for one of the most horrific abuses that my father perpetrated against me, which proves that he was involved with the family murders also, which still hasn't properly come out, because it was the MO of those particular, horrific experiences. Never be afraid to show the freak that you are. And I call myself a freak in a very loving way. That's not a derogatory term. I do not mean that derogatorily. I call myself a freak because I am very different, and I'm so proud of that. So don't be afraid to be the freak that you are, because you never know who will love you for it. Because that could be the main thing that you came here to do in this world, is to be that different person that other people might laugh at. And honestly, at some point, you just don't care anymore.
No, and you have so much more fun.
Exactly.
And you do find the most amazing people.
Precisely. And Sarah, honestly, of all the people that I've taught this course to, there's only a small group who, like you, have stepped up and run with this idea. And you were doing this before we met. I mean, you were connecting with people and going out and doing this incredible work. it is such, and this is one of the reasons why I love you so much, it is such an absolute joy to see people realize the significance of it when you know that you've helped people to understand the significance. You already knew, but and then can go out and do this in groups. I was shared, one of my recent course members shared with me a beautiful flyer. I think it was yesterday, and it's just stunning. And it's this ley line, beautiful picture of a ley line, and it's a meeting on the 27th of October. People are meeting in this particular location. Oh, I should have remembered the location so that we could, you know, spruik it for them. But it just, when I share our interview, I'll put it up. This person's getting a group of people together, providing a light lunch, I think it was, or a morning tea, and they're going out ley line searching. It's just like so cool. So it's becoming something that people can just do. They can just go out and meet up and do these things. I don't know if this is the same as another course member of mine called Kylie, who's also doing the same work. Then it might be the same person. I've got to clarify. But Kylie's also doing this. She's getting people together and they're going out. There's groups of people from these courses who are then amassing other people and then going out together because they all happen to be in the same location. It's so exciting. It's just so cool. Oh,
I
you've
mean,
got
you
it.
can't see it,
Ah,
but it's so
fantastic.
beautiful because I saw it too and I went, oh, I want to go.
So where was it shared?
This is on the official Lay Love Down group,
Oh,
so
it's
it
gone on
must have
there.
been picked up.
Fantastic.
And
Okay.
so this is Sunday, the 27th of October from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. in Tweed Shire, New South Wales. $50 per person, and afternoon tea is provided. And yeah, see the Lay Love Down official group telegram or the website,
Yeah.
which is laylovedown.com. Nice and easy. Yeah, because those, these groups of people coming together, there's so much joy in sharing that. And one of the things about Lay Love Down is it's completely free. I mean,
Yes.
they've asked for some money to go towards the catering, obviously, but really most of this is all done because people just want to get out together and it
Yeah.
doesn't cost anything. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you have just given us such a gift because although, yeah, I think I just felt like it was good being out of nature and doing all these things that I was naturally doing. But when I did your course, I just felt like, oh, there's a real reason for this. And yeah, oh my God, those things that I keep seeing in the trees, there is a thing. And
Yeah.
somebody else is talking about it. So it just gave me such a validation,
Yeah.
and now when we're on those, when we're sharing our photos and our videos of being out there, it's so wonderful. And you get these little feedbacks from these amazing people who are like, oh, I can see the green man there, right?
Yeah, exactly. They can see all the different aspects and see, because of psychology, a lot of us were scared to talk about these things because, again, they call it pareidolia. It's some sort of nebulous stimulus. Absolute rubbish. And if you talk about it being a nebulous stimulus, that is an insult to every single original culture on the face of this earth who see the great significance in it. Of course, it's significant. And so, again, the dark ones who had control of this planet for millennia knew this time was coming, knew the veil was going to lift, knew that we're all going to become spiritual again. And they've done everything in their power. They've poisoned us. They've created psychology to try and I'm not bagging all psychologists either. Most of it's counseling and it's very important. But the aspects that relegate these sorts of visions to delusion and schizophrenia and psychosis, that aspect is absolutely evil. And of course, religion, organized religions had a big part to play in this because you're not supposed to talk about those things. And it's evil to have a pineal gland. I mean, for fuck's sake. Sorry. Oh my God.
I know.
Oh,
And, it's evil, but the Catholic Church has a massive pine cone in the yard, just
yeah.
massive. So,
Yeah,
they all know this stuff.
yeah,
They're just trying to keep it for themselves and turn
precisely.
turn it all against us. And and like we talked about protection and how do people keep themselves safe? And you and I both immediately initially had the same response, like a little bit glib, because actually I think when you go out into nature you realize that the trees have been protecting us. The river, the water protects us, cleanses us. Like there's so much protection available for us that we just have, all we have to do is start acknowledging it.
Yes, exactly.
And then we can do all the other stuff. Our intention is important, and decide, if you wake up and you've got a bit of a fright or something, then yeah, do put your protection around you. But yeah, like, we need to start, I think not only will we see more interdimensionally, but we also we've got to start feeling what's been available to us that we haven't been able to receive.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And this is the most important aspect of what's going on at the moment, because the earth needs our help. She's been providing for us for millennia, for countless generations, countless incarnations. Without her, we would not have ascended to the levels that we are at the moment. Whether people are only midway or they've really ascended past the graduation level, and quite frankly, we don't get stuck with, this is not a prison planet at all. There may have been constructs, which I think was part of the veil, that's completely disintegrated now. We can choose not to come back here. I think a lot of souls will want to come back because the next 1,000 years will be stunning. But she's given us so much, we need to give back. So
Yeah.
water is sentient. It's conscious. I mean, we've both sung the beautiful Maori song, Mana o Te Wai, because Murphy Rowland also shared that with us. And, when you sing to water, it hears you. You are helping it to remember itself. Water is sentient. All of the elements, actually, are conscious and sentient. It's interesting because I see oil as having a darker energy, but I think it's because it's been so misused. It's been used in such a dark way. It's been infiltrated. Trees are sentient. I still am, trying to work out whether or not the reason why the ley lines create these beautiful clear corridors through nature is, it's either because the trees and plants don't like to grow in it, or they have the sentience and the respect not to grow within it, because this is the Earth's energy channels. I think it's probably a combination of the two. So but of course, you've got your mark trees that also sort of grow in there as well, because someone needs to point out that the ley line is there. And that's when you'll see these beautiful trees with these big arched bows, and that their whole trunk will arch around the ley line. It's so spectacular. It's so obvious, but it's interesting, it gets hidden. We've all been sort of kind of herded into these concrete jungles where we don't interact with nature on a regular basis. We don't see the significance of it in the same way. So, I mean, Lay Love Down's given me, so much more to look forward to and to live for and to work with as well. It's a lot more fun talking about that than talking about the horrors of my childhood, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, when you've got all of this background stuff and everybody is in that process of discovering and trying to make sense of all of this darkness that has happened and has been put upon us, we can get lost there, and it's not a healthy place for us to stay. Now, we need to know, but we don't need to try and understand it, really. I mean, yeah, we can't understand something that is so not logical. It's not logical to us, because we can see something better, and humanity has this incredible compassion for one another, and we work, humans are very kind and very helpful. So trying to understand something that would never occur to you is really a waste of your energy. And what I would say is, they have tried to poison us. They do it through the airwaves, they do it through the water, they try and do all these things. Well, look outside. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
How much power are you going to give them? They haven't won yet. If they couldn't do it by now, they can't do it. So rather than being stuck in that place of helplessness, let's reconnect and do exactly what you have gifted us, is get outside, be together, sing, have fun, be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. And that community factor is a huge one too, because people have been separated out. Look at the way that the family has been attacked. They're attacking the woman's position. We're not even women anymore. We're not even allowed to speak about women anymore. Look at men being torn down. Every time you see, a character in Hollywood or in cartoon series, they're always idiots. So, it's just been designed to make us all feel like we can't sort of be supportive of anybody. But when you've got a community sort of action like this, people get together and they relearn those connections are very safe and important, they can trust.
Mm.
And we are coming into a time where community is actually going to be the way things that are run. I don't see governments where you've got a few, bred for purpose individuals from bloodline families telling everybody what the legislation is, which nobody consents to. We're going to have community connection, and people are going to have to be fully informed of what's going on, and they'll have to give their consent for any kind of action. And it might take a little bit longer. Well, let's face it, it doesn't happen quickly now anyway, when they've only got a few people in power. But I can see that happening at a grassroots level up. So we might still have some spokespeople, but it's going to be more like from what I can see, more like the local government type situation, where you've got your councillors that don't get paid a lot of money that represent you. And if they don't do their job, they live in the local area, they have to do their job, because people will come with pitchforks if you don't.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it has to be. These people can't be living in fortresses where they can't be touched if they do the wrong thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of like, without the ego and the personality kind of popularity contest that it seems to be, that building of a legacy, like we are building this legacy together and it's ours. And the same thing you said about government, I feel about healthcare, is that, like there will not be a healthcare system the way it has been, and there shouldn't be. And at the moment in New Zealand, we have somebody who's collecting signatures to try and petition the government to save our health system. Well, I'm not signing it, because I don't want that health system. It's got no health in it. So no, so we're gonna totally recreate these things. And that's, I was saying that's kind of the purpose of doing this series for me, is like, these people in the world who want to help each other are so good. These people are amazing, they're friendly, they're beautiful, they're kind. Like, these are the people you are going to get your healing with, because they are going to hold the space for you to do what you need to do. And really, we are so responsible for our own healing. We have to stop trying to pass it off to somebody. But if you want somebody safe to work with, well, go to Rachel, come to me. See any of the people that have been on here, and there's so many more. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
we're
love the
really
fact that that's what you're doing. You're interviewing all of these incredible people, so that not talking about myself, but incredible people that people can then look up to and say, well, okay, well, I feel comfortable with Sarah's energy. She seems like she's benevolent. She really means well. She wouldn't be bringing this person onto her platform if she didn't trust them. So that's the way that, and people always have to use their own discernment. But it's clear enough for those who now understand that every time you see something in the mainstream media that is attacking something, you now understand that, because it's all inverted. If they're attacking homeopathy, which they have done endlessly, if they're attacking kinesiology, if they're attacking all these alternative health options, particularly things like oncology, if the oncologists are going spastic because somebody hasn't had their breasts ripped off their body, refused to go through the cancer treatments, as Elle Macpherson has done, and I'm not speaking for Elle, it's just the way they attacked her recently was absolutely obscene. Because how dare she survive? It's like, oh my gosh, really? How vicious. And it was vicious and maleficent. It was horrible. If they're doing that, that's probably a really good healing modality to go for. We've had so many people who've been influencers who've done their very best to try and help people to go the right route if they've got some sort of chronic condition and they have been torn down and attacked. Again, probably somebody who's actually got something important to say, and you might want to listen. And again, use your own discernment. But the health system will completely collapse. It's already happening. There were a couple of health chiefs in my state of South Australia who resigned recently, very recently. Victoria's had this for the international audience. It's one of the states in Australia. They've actually had to pull back their mandate for all the healthcare workers to keep getting these things in their arms. So clearly that whole paradigm of what they were trying to bring in has completely collapsed. And with this, again, it's one of those amazing things. It has completely turned around and bitten them on the bum, so that all those doctors and people who went through, and I feel sorry for them, but many people who go into being a surgeon or a doctor, it's not necessarily because they've got this desire to help, not all of them. Some of them live in families who pushed and forced them to go into those positions. Some of them wanted the prestige, the flashy cars, the flashy houses, the pretty wife on the arm. I'm not saying all, but there is a percentage that do it for the prestige. And then you know them when you see them, when you go and meet with these doctors, you know they're not caring. It's not about you. It's about what it means to them to have that position. That is the absolute antithesis of health. It's the antithesis of healing. It's all about them having the power over you, not helping you to find your own ability to heal yourself. So that whole paradigm will completely shift. And the fact that they forced these things on people, and those that knew that they were dangerous didn't do their due diligence and speak up. And I am not advocating for vilifying doctors and nurses, because the vast majority of them really were trying to help. But that whole system's going to collapse. There won't be any funding for it either. That's the other thing.
Well, there won't be, and that's what we're seeing here at the moment. Now, I do want to bring up that there is a woman called Janine of Arabella in New Zealand, and I don't actually remember her last name, but she has used natural law or maritime law, and she has taken a lien against every government corporation and entity in New Zealand and around the world, but particularly New Zealand. She has had she's won everything, and she's taken it right through to the High Court, and the ruling was, I think the 19th of September was kind of the last date that anything could possibly stand in the way. But I mean, I don't have very good recall, and I'm not very good with details, but she's on Rumble, and there is an interview she did where she talks about what the process she went through. Now, this is a woman who lost her daughter because her daughter was under the mental health system, and she didn't get what she needed. In fact, they were responsible for her death. To me, it is really significant that it is a woman. It is a woman who has lost her child, who is doing this to make sure that everybody is looked after. She has so much integrity. And at the moment, she is completely ignored. Nobody's talking about her. They all know about her, but because she's...
That's some pretty amazing divine protection to have got that.
And she has literally handed in person these notices of liability, the notices of fault, the notices of default. She's had all of this done. She knows the registrar at the courts because, they get to know you. She is amazing, and the implications of what she has done are massive for New Zealand, but she has actually put in her writing that it will implicate every system within the world that we live in. So everyone falls under her protection. And she's not putting herself above anybody by doing that. She's just saying, this is the claim that I am staking, and this is for everybody. And we will no longer live in a world where anybody can do anything against our will. And it just is she's had help from a retired judge. So, it's definitely lined up that this was important, but I really wanted to make mention of that because I haven't used this forum to say anything. And I just think, well, we all need to get abreast of this because if nothing else, we can all do the same thing.
Exactly. So there are certain souls, or there were many, many souls that were sent to this planet to have a human experience so that at this time they could step up and do something incredible like what you've just described with this woman. And there would have been many along the way who just couldn't quite get it together for whatever reason. And in that sense, I would say in this situation, the soul of the daughter probably knew that this was going to occur. It was part of the process. Death isn't always the horror show that people think it is. So, and I'm not advocating that this poor girl lost her life, but without that happening, Janine would not have had the need to do this, the compulsion, the inspiration to do it. And this is the thing: when people are at the point where they have nothing left to lose, they step up. We need to live our lives as if death is not the problem. It's not scary. It might not be fun going through the process of death, but it's no reason not to live. So that is someone who I would describe as completely living her life and her purpose.
Yeah, and she does
Wow.
say when she talks about it that she says, you know, they've made attempts on her life,
Of course they would have.
but she said, you know, what can they do to me that's worse than losing my daughter? If they take me out, I'm with her.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, and
So
she
that's
has
almost
faith.
like an incentive. What an amazing woman. Wow. Wow.
Really amazing. And yeah, and that's, you know, that fear thing, that trying to keep us in that fear vibration. And we're really getting called, I feel like, to step into more and more of our power beyond what, you know, we've there's so many of us who have been working away and, like, you know, trying to get rid of all the ghosts and the skeletons in the closet and understand ourselves and know what our true fear is. But it feels like there's even this deeper layer, and for me, I think that can be attributed to past life stuff as well. um I went to the vet the other day, just a little aside, and I hadn't my dog is not getting vaccines, and, you know, none of that stuff. Like, there's just no compromise on that. But she got something in her eye and it was goopy and it had not been better in the morning. So I thought, okay, well, I probably should go and see a vet just in case. But I realized, oh, I've got colloidal silver, I'll use that. So I did that. By the time I got her to the vet, her eye was looking a lot better. So I said to him, well, you know, I think she's maybe got something in her eye or a scratch or something, but I've been using colloidal silver and it's already looking better. Well, he did this whole little dance of, well, where did you get the colloidal silver? And I mean, have you done the math on that? And I said to him, well, no. I said, I believe it works on the principles of homeopathy anyway. And I said, because I went to him specifically because it was a clinic that used to offer homeopathy and the
Oh,
old vet had left, but I was under the impression that he would still continue. Um, so I said, well, do you use homeopathy? And he went, no. And I said, okay, well, because I'm using nosodes and worming treatments that are homeopathics for her. And he said, well, what are nosodes? I said, well, that's the homeopathic equivalent of a vaccine. Oh, well, you haven't had the parvovirus vaccine? I said, no. Oh, you're taking a risk. And I said, look, for me, the risk is the side effects of the vaccines
yeah.
over the problem of what you're describing. And he said, well, I've seen dogs bleeding out on the floor and dying of parvovirus in the 1980s. And I said, I'm not interested in your fear story about that. I said, my line is that I'll never take another vaccine and she won't either. I
Fantastic.
couldn't believe it. I've never been so clear on my, you know, usually I mean, I still let them give us the eye drops and all that stuff, but, you know, I've never been so clear about where I stand. And on my way home, I was really cross, and I was cross at him. And then I realized I was actually cross at me because I knew going there that I was immediately putting myself in a situation where somebody was going to be the expert over us.
Yes.
And then I
And you'd
thought,
already got to the point of healing her anyway.
yeah,
Because I mean, I bath with colloidal silver. If you've got conjunctivitis, it's gone within a couple of hours.
yeah,
It is uncanny how
yeah.
quickly it works. And why would you bother with all the other rubbish? Oh gosh.
And it's just now, it's like all these things, you know, we've got the knowledge, we have the resources. Yes,
Yeah,
if you've got the internet, you've got resources, you've just got to keep looking and you've got to have the discernment to know what feels right for you. But yeah, I just, you know, I think it's one of those things where I got really clear after that. I
yeah.
am not compromising anymore. Like, I've people pleased for a whole lot of stuff. And I thought even in that moment, oh, you know, well, if I just get along with them, then if anything really bad happens, I can always come back. And I left it. I thought, I'm never going back there. I
Oh,
don't care what happens. I'll find somebody else.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing too, when you've got a good community, you do find the other people that do the right thing. I mean, honestly, how was that going to affect your dog? Him talking about all that rubbish.
I know. I thought, thank God it's not my child, because, you know, I mean, and unfortunately for my children, I'm a bit late on that, but, you know, imagine your child having to sit there, and the funny thing is he had the same name as my GP, he dressed the same way, he had the same attitude, and I have completely lost all respect for my GP, of course, in the
Yeah.
last 5 years. So
Yeah.
I thought this is really interesting. I'm really being given an opportunity to learn something here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was talking about this recently. So, giving your sovereignty out to others, or what's the word? Outsourcing. We don't
Yeah.
need to outsource anymore. You can get advice, but be careful who you get the advice from.
Mm,
And even anything that we've spoken about today, if anybody doesn't feel like it resonates with them, well, you just let that go and go with something that does resonate with you. But people need to listen to their gut more. We need to do that. So I wouldn't say that was a mistake. I'd say that was a really good lesson, as you've already pointed out. And it's certainly one you probably won't ever make that lesson come to fruition again. You won't need to. Yeah, but that old paradigm, the medical model it's disintegrating.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just saw so clearly in that moment, he was trying to scare me.
Yes.
And I thought, how dare you? How dare
Yeah.
you do that? And I thought, I was a midwife. I've bloody seen, I've seen people bleeding out. I know what that looks like. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
there's nothing that you can say that is really going to make me go, oh my God, you must know better than me. But
Mm.
we've all got the journey to go. I guess it's still going to be playing out. But realistically, we actually all have the resources now to do better.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was just reminded of the fact that those that go into those authoritarian positions are usually the youngest of souls. They don't have wisdom. And that's why they go into a position where they feel they have authority because they lack it.
Mm.
They don't trust themselves. So they go in and they get a title. And people who do natural medicines don't have titles because we don't need them. So that's another thing to avoid people with titles.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of letters. All the letters.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
It's
know, and
honest.
and even a little bit like I've got my Bachelor of Health Science above me here on the wall. It took me 16 years to even put it into a frame.
Oh, wow, wow. Yeah, wow.
And now I'm like, no one's ever asked me for any proof of what I do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can give them certificates at the wazoo, but for what, to what end? Because when they come in for a treatment, they've literally already engaged with themselves to make themselves better or to challenge themselves in some way, and nobody cares what I'm doing. I mean, literally half the time I'm standing there babbling and in light language and they're just doing their thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a very amazing time to be on the earth, and we do have so many I don't know, so many gifts available. And you know I, can you tell us just a little bit about the services you offer before we sign off? Because I'd love people to know. I've had a reading with you, and I was actually about to book another one before we got on.
Well, I can't take on any more new reading clients unless people have done my psychic development courses, and that's the only way I've been able to organise it because I'm booked way off into February now, and I just don't want to be booked too far ahead. Also, I want to be available for those clients that I've already read for, so I've put a cap on that. But with my course, if people are interested in doing my psychic development course, I teach on Leylines. I teach how to read auras. Well, I help people to remember how to read auras. I talk about all the different kinds of otherworldly entities, how we pick them up. There's certain rods and cones in the retina that allow us to pick up certain electromagnetic frequencies. And they'll often pick, you'll pick these things up in the corner of the eye and the peripheral vision, and there's a reason for that. So I explain those sorts of things, and cryptochromes and tetrachromatic vision, as I was talking about before. I also teach how to manifest ethically. So, these secret societies know all about how to manifest, but they don't want us to know about it. And when you have one vision and you stick to it, and you don't let any of the other, programming, conditioning, people in your life who've said, oh, you can't do that, you'll never make money that way. When do you turn that off and you have one of those visions come true, that sets you up for life. You can literally visualize your way into success. So there is a series of things that I teach on that. And so I usually have 4 sessions over a month, and on the last session, it's a question and answer, which is my favorite because I learned so much from people asking the questions. And so that's what I do, and I do these courses. I've got one just about to start in November. There's still some places left there. And the next one I'm doing in February. I usually do them every second month, but I've got a lot coming up in December. So, and also I'll spruik for the Cosmic Consciousness Conference as well. I'm going up to Uluru, which is an incredible sacred rock, massive sacred rock in the centre of Australia, where two of the most powerful of ley lines on the earth, dragon lines, cross. So this is a massive portal space, and the rock is right in the centre of that portal space. And it just so happens that I've been invited up by Catherine and Mike to do the conference at the most important time for this planetary ascension that we're going through. The last solstice, I suppose, is probably the way to describe it. The actual harmonization of the ley lines in December of this year. So if people want to go along, just look up Cosmic Consciousness Conference. Yeah.
Yay. Oh, I still have this little part of my heart that's like, maybe, maybe it could work.
Nice if you were there.
I might be a fly in, fly out.
Mm.
But I want to just say that your course is amazing. It's a really beautifully enveloping kind of group to be in. You have a really amazing way of just bringing everybody into the space where you get through quite a lot of information in a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah.
And still people get the opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
Yeah, not only that.
There's a Telegram group for each of these courses too, so that creates a community, and that I don't take those down after the course ends. That continues, and this is where these incredible groups are getting together and then going off and doing the work with the ley lines, which is just astonishing, or practicing remote viewing together, or watching each other's auras on Zooms or in physical, presence.
I'm in that first Telegram group. We haven't done any of that. We just keep chatting. I better get us moving. We do share a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's the community that gets created in these groups. Because then, those people are meeting now and doing their work, which is just astonishing. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's so beautiful. And I've been really lucky because I just know so many people have done your course, not at the same time necessarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, I go for walks with people now, and we are literally like exploring places, often places that I've grown up in, so I know fairly well. But we are just discovering things all the time.
Beautiful.
And yeah, and I really want to kind of do a shout out to the people who did that course that I did, because we are still in contact, like daily, actually. We've even had a baby born in that group.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. And
Yeah.
look, those of us that were close enough in Australia did meet from that group as well. One brief time, but sadly, because you're in another place, we couldn't get you over.
Yeah. One day. I'm gonna get over there one day.
Yeah. You will.
But yeah, no, it's an incredible course. I really encourage everybody to do it. It's so, like, financially, it's so doable. It's an amazing, like, you've just made it so available. And also that Rachel receives you go out and take the photos and all the stuff and you send it to Rachel. And you know what? She's amazing because she actually responds to you. And that probably can't continue forever.
Yeah.
But now you have the Lay Love Down team, and we just have so many people there who will respond. And we've all picked up the way that you see things and respond, so we've started doing the same. And there's just this huge community available to hold that space when you can't.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. So I just feel so blessed. I really do. It's weird. I always felt that when I was 50, something amazing was going to happen. I just felt like I've got to survive to 50 because there's been a lot of attempts to take me out. And I've just turned 51, and the last year and a bit has just been astounding. Just astounding. It's been amazing. So yeah, I'm happy.
Well, you have brought some incredible people together, and and actually through you, Rachel, I have just met some really incredible friends. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to my husband and I talking about maybe doing some time in Australia at some point. So I'm hoping for that.
December.
he's into rugby, so he's got his like little hot spots. But yeah, one day. But in the meantime, we've all got solstice to look forward to. So it's about the 21st, 22nd of December.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that harmonization of the lays around the world. Like if you've got stuff that you are putting off, don't put it off any longer.
Yes.
Get out there and just start doing the stuff, because what are you waiting for? There's not a better time.
Precisely. And it's like everybody's on steroids to try and get to the highest frequency they can. It's like December's this bottleneck. So do that work, exactly what you've just said. Do that work, that shadow work, whatever you need to do. If you're doing a job you can't stand, there's something that makes your heart sing that you really want to do, start to put that into place. Leave that job if you can. Find a way to make a living out of what you love, because it's always possible. And that's, as we come into this higher frequency, that's going to be more and more available to people. We will be able to live our best life. We're not supposed to be here slaving at a job that we can't stand, making money for other people.
No.
It's not right.
And with the collapse of all these systems that don't work, I mean, I used to teach Bowen, and my husband would say to me, "Why are you teaching people to be your competition?" I said, "Oh my God, there are so many people in this world who could use it. Like, I don't mind if I teach myself out of a job.
Oh,
That would be
exactly.
fine.
Yeah,
We've got so many places. We need all the healers we can. Everyone's a healer. Like, step into
exactly.
that if that's your calling. Your calling might be through music, it might be through writing, it could be, there's so many wonderful ways to fill your heart's desire.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's not doing something you can't stand just to keep a roof over your head. In fact, when you give that up, you'll find that the universe provides in a way that you'd never imagined before.
Yeah. Well, I know that the universe provided me you, so I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for taking all this time to talk to me, and I really look forward to hearing about your trip to Uluru. And I encourage everybody to get over to Lay Love Down and get signed up, just to be on there to get the updates. If you're in New Zealand, then reach out to me, because I am really happy to either, go out and land with people, but also to help bring people together. I've got a few people around the country who are really interested, but they haven't found their other people yet. So, but yeah, best place to do that is laylovedown.com.
Thank you, Dylan.
All right, thank you. I have to remember how to turn it off. Yeah, from my heart to yours, everybody. Thank you for being here. Namaste.